WGR Rochester, the sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950 WGR Rochester, an Odyssey sports station.
Some people will be there, some people.
WROCAM, WBEE, HD2, and W239BF Rochester. The sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950 WGR Rochester, an Odyssey sports station. Now.
1 hour and 59 minutes of sports talk excellence here in the Flower City. From here on in. What's wrong with our computer? It's not, folks, it's not Timmy. Terrible take, Timmy, our producer. Dan Drummy here as well. My name is Gene Battaglia. Thank you. You found us. We're here. We're off and running here on a Friday here as we will be talking some Sabres. We've got some football notes for you, and we'll be talking some Bills here. Let's set up the show here right out of the gate as we will talk to Ryan Talbot coming up at the bottom of this hour. Ryan Talbot, NewYorkUpstate.com, the Shout podcast as well. As this weekend, it's quiet for the Bills. Sometimes they have the rookie mini camp coming right out of the gate and have those rookies come in. Not so this year. They're going to come in next weekend. So where this is usually the mad scramble for UDFAs, undrafted free agents, well, there's been a lot of invites to rookie minicamp. And one, two, maybe more of these guys might pop up and earn a spot on the team. And Ryan is somebody who tracks this stuff, who is kind of somebody who can forecast, all right, this is somebody we should be paying attention to. So this is not a surface-level Bills conversation we have. If you're a Bills fan, we're going to dig a little deeper. Ryan Talbot, NewYorkUpstate.com, the Shout podcast, joining us at the bottom of this hour. Next hour, he's in Boston. That is the center of the Western New York universe tonight as the Buffalo Sabres will be taking on the Boston Bruins. Matthew Fairburn from The Athletic will be joining us as the Sabres had their skate. Lindy Ruff spoke in just a little bit. We'll go over just kind of the bullet points of that. Matthew Fairburn, 2 o'clock hour. You're welcome to join us anytime. The Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub Wingman line at 866-4FAN. Award-winning barbecue from Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub, 135 West Commercial Street, East Rochester, goodsmokebbq.com. That's 866-4326. The area code probably 585. We're on 95.7 FM, AM 950, free in the Odyssey app. We're on YouTube and Twitch. I think we got everything in there. Tim is wearing his Cleveland. It's funny. I didn't think we would lead with Cleveland, and we'll get to that in just a little bit. But for the Sabres tonight, 6 o'clock pregame, but who are we kidding? Like, as soon as we turn it over to the show, he'll be talking Sabres all afternoon here. So that'll be setting up 7:30 tonight. Dan Dunleavy, Rob Ray with a call right here. And the question mark here is, does Logan Stanley play tonight or not? He's a question mark, so that's really the true game time decision. If it's not Stanley, it'll be Michael Kesselring. And I think it's such a clue that the Sabres are really good that, again, Zach Metza really is your eighth defenseman on this league. For how many other teams is he a starter? He's behind Timmins and Kesselring, and he's somebody that certainly could be a big benefit for an organization. But the Sabres tonight, maybe it is Stanley. I personally, if Stanley says, I'm good, you put him in there. There's no question. Timmy's nodding his head. Like, there's no question. In terms of trade deadline moves, who was the big guy that went from the Rangers to the Kings? Kopitar? No, not Kopitar. Help me out. Panarin, right. Yeah, that's what everybody's kind of focused on, but that's not what the Sabres needed. Jarmo Kekalainen realized, okay, maybe we're going to face a team like Boston. We need a little bit of muscle. And I happened just as luck. I made it to one Sabre game this year. And this is when, all right, this is real. This was in March. And it was a Tuesday night game against San Jose. And I had so many takeaways from that game. Number one, all right, it's a Tuesday night in downtown Buffalo, and the place is jumping. People are excited about this team. This is also right after the trade deadline. And there was some trade paperwork or whatever it was that was getting things held up because Stanley was working in Winnipeg at the time. And okay, can you come over here to this side and this be your home base and go to work? And for that reason, nobody was really sure when he would be in the lineup. And then I got to the arena, and I'm looking and like, who the heck is that out on the ice? You notice that right away when you see Logan Stanley. Like, oh, that's 64. That's Stanley. I guess he's in the lineup tonight. You're not messing with that guy. But he's not just this big old goon out there. He's not the, as Mike Catalano would hate me saying this, the one-trick pony. He's somebody that actually has a slap shot. He's not no Darlene or anything like that at the blue line, but he's not gonna cost you, not gonna embarrass you on the blue line. So yeah, having somebody like that police, especially when you got a knucklehead like Zadorov on the other side. So it's going to be an interesting swing of an emotion, Sabre fans, because when we get back on Monday, what are we talking about? Are we talking about, all right, what a game yesterday, or, all right, we've had a whole weekend. Let's talk about this upcoming series against Montreal, Tampa Bay. We were joined by Joe Yurden yesterday, who, by the way, his cold got worse, so unfortunately he couldn't make it out to Boston, but he's a gamer. He joined us on the phone. He says that series is going to go 7, and this is kind of the downside, right? Even if you're not a hockey fan, you just might be a sports fan. You like the Stanley Cup playoffs. To have the Sabres, Bruins up the same time as Canadians and Tampa, like if you don't have a favorite team, you're loving this. You're just flipping back and forth, which is the more compelling game, which is the game that's not in commercial break or in between periods. You're going back and forth on that. For us here, no, I don't think I want to even risk flipping over. I want to take in everything. So, again, the Sabres tonight, 7:30 in Boston. Montreal, Tampa, their game 6 tonight in Florida. That will be coming up at 7 o'clock. Again, our number, 585-866-4326. That is the number to call. So Sabres are certainly on the table. And, again, are we talking about, hey, this is going to be a really fun matchup against Montreal or Tampa? Or are we doing an autopsy? I truly believe the Sabres are the better team. And even if we do get to a game 7, and trust me, if the Sabres lose tonight, Sabre Twitter, just don't even bother going on it. It's going to be nervous and jerky land. That's what it's going to be. People will be losing their minds if Buffalo loses tonight. But point to me the Stanley Cup contender. Just pick a random year where there weren't doubts, there weren't question marks, there weren't like toe-to-toe matchups. This is why these playoffs are great. And if they can vanquish Boston, that'll feel very satisfying. Next round will even be tougher. Matthew Fairburn from The Athletic will join us next hour. Ryan Talbot with some Bills talk coming up bottom of this hour. You can reach us on X, our handle at WGR Rochester. So this story came out earlier in the week, and because we're so busy with everything else, namely, hey, let's react to the Bills draft. What about the Sabres? Oh, my gosh, the Amerks season ended. And we had Don Stevens in yesterday, by the way. He was fantastic. We got a lot of compliments on that. And if you missed it, by all means, the Odyssey app, you can go back and listen to it. I'm going to say that's not going to be our last conversation with Don, but certainly as the voice of the Rochester Americans, that will be our last conversation with Don. And they have not handed the baton over to Andrew yet, so we'll just have to kind of wait and see how that HR plays out. But getting back to my point, what was the story that, all right, on a slow day we might have touched on? To me, it's not a surprise. I have been saying this for 2 years. Whenever there's a question of, okay, what's the better option, follow the money. Always, always, always follow the money. And it was nice and cute that the Cleveland Browns drafted 2 rookie quarterbacks last year, and at one point had Joe Flacco, and my gosh, they had like 6 quarterbacks, I think, at one point.
Kenny Pickett.
Yeah, they had
all glorious quarterbacks.
Glorious. And I said all along, did I not, Tim? It's going to be Deshaun Watson's job. And sure enough, here we get to the first spring reports, and Deshaun Watson is your leading candidate, according to Mary Kay Cabot, which is not surprising, right? He got $230 million guaranteed. Now, here in the sports bar, we're not new to sports talk. This time slot's new to us. And Tim, you are not new to the show. You were always the guy filling in, and it was glorious. Glorious. That here was Rappaport and Schefter, and I'm not throwing shade at him. I'm just saying, hey, the consensus is, oh my gosh, it's down to two teams. It's Atlanta or New Orleans. Where's Deshaun Watson going to go? And you and I are sitting in here, we're like, Cleveland? What? And to see $230 million. And my first thought is, wow, Jimmy Haslam, every owner must be MFing that guy right now to reset the bar for that guy, for Deshaun Watson. Character questions with a capital C and a capital Q. Okay, good luck. And it went as poorly as you can imagine. Oh, sure, you had a win over the Ravens in Baltimore. Was that worth $230 million? I don't think so. So we're still here. How many years later? 5 years. We're still here. You would think this is the end of the story. It's not. And I'm not rubbing your face in this, Tim, because this is setting up another story here. The fact that Deshaun Watson has 4 void years on his contract. We shame baseball, as we should. Baseball's going to have a real problem here at some point where, okay, labor talks. We really shouldn't be deferring $68 million on a Shohei Ohtani contract. Like, that's not. And by the way, just basic economics. Like, if you go back, 25 years ago? Yeah, $68 million 25 years ago is worth more than $68 million today. So I would have just said, give me all my money now. But I guess really Ohtani wanted to be a Dodger. I guess you can't fault him on that. But I digress. The point is that, yeah, where we shame baseball, we should shame the NFL too, because there's no way void years should exist. The void year is nothing more than a loophole. And Watson right now, you may not know this, he's actually in the final year of his contract. And Brown said, if you're thinking, oh, phew, thank goodness. No. If the Browns let him walk, as they should, assuming they will, next year, Tim, do you know the cost on the cap next year? Thank you to Spot Track for these.
I know that it is a massive number over the next few years.
$86 million. He'll still be on the books until 2030. If you just kind of ride this out, all right, there's the Watson number again. 2030, $8.6 million. That's crazy. We'll be so far removed from that. Follow the money. Deshaun Watson's your starting quarterback this year because you got to get something out of this.
I don't know.
Well, that's the interesting part. Oh, before we even get to that, let's go down the path of saying he leads Cleveland to the playoffs. Is it that far-fetched?
It's not far-fetched.
No, it's not. It's not
Not
far-fetched.
probable.
Well, they have Myles Garrett. They have young pieces everywhere on this team. Let's just kind of compare the quarterbacks. I don't even know who Cleveland's going to trot out their quarterback. They're not going to be the worst. Pittsburgh is going to be the worst with Aaron Rodgers.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, like if it's Watson or if it ends up being Sanders, like Gabriel, I really think Cleveland is not going to have the worst situation.
Well, not Gabriel. Gabriel's yucky.
Okay, well, Gabriel might not make the team. I'll defer to you on that one. Let's just go down the path of, all right, wow, the Browns are a wild card team. I don't know if it'll feel good. I like there's Deshaun Watson and he's out there making plays, and then that you go back to the beginning of the story and the end in Houston. If he performs well, do you really want him as the comeback player of the year? No, does the NFL?
No, that's what I'm. I can't remember. Did Vic get it? If Vic got it, I think that it's fair game for Watson to get it. My answer as an NFL guy, if I'm working for the NFL, no, please no. But if they went with Vic, then I don't think that they're going to shy away from going with Watson.
Yeah. The answer is no. Then I can't see anybody that went away because of, oh my gosh, he did. I'm sorry. 2010. Son of a gun. Good call on that.
If they're willing to go with Vic, then they'll be willing to go with just about anything.
Deshaun Watson, yeah. Now, from a football standpoint, Vic was really, really good. That was the one and only year of here's Chip Kelly's offense in Philadelphia. And if you're an Eagle fan, that 1 year was glorious. They were moving the ball around. It was a lot of fun. 2010. And it all fell apart rather quick. And that fat Chip Kelly has lived, think about that, 15 years off that reputation. 15 years. And was it the scheme or was it actually, hey, you actually have LaShawn McCoy and Michael Vick and some guys. But then he ships off McCoy. He had a wide receiver that said something incredibly racist, and you welcomed them back 2 days later. That's when things fell apart there.
Not having control of the room.
Read the room first there, Coach. Again, what I feel like I digress a lot. Maybe that's a problem here in the sports bar. But hey, we're just talking sports here. That's what we do here on the show. I'm bringing up the whole Watson saga because, well, the competition. Now, did Shedeur Sanders show you anything that would make you think he's the guy? Probably not. You can make any excuse. He was moving the ball in a game against the Ravens that made it interesting. But the best thing you could say about Shedeur Sanders is he should be able to compete. However, for the reasons I just kind of laid out for you, Deshaun Watson has a pedigree in this league. He's getting paid a lot of money. And Mary Kay Cabot, like the dean of Cleveland football media, goes out and says, he's the guy right now entering the spring practices. Okay, there it is. Well, I'm sorry, this just does not reflect well on the Shedeur story with Deion, the whole family. Because you forget there's Shiloh Sanders. Now, let me back up. Shiloh Sanders not in the league. Bills fans, you may remember Shiloh Sanders. It is the third meaningless preseason game for the Buffalo Bills. It's a game down in Tampa. I don't even remember who started at quarterback for Buffalo that night. It was really, all right, let's just kind of get through this, everybody, okay? The highlight of the game to me was Shavers catching a touchdown pass in the corner. And Shavers, okay, like that looks like an actual receiver. He should be on the team, and he was on the team. And ironically, he would actually catch a very important pass against that same Tampa game when it really mattered later on in November. Well, back to the August preseason game, there was a play, and it's toward the left end zone, and somebody I thought should have made the team did not. Zach Davidson, tight end for Buffalo. And there's Shiloh Sanders throwing punches. Like unprovoked, or what was it? It wasn't clear. Well, Sanders gets the ejection, and it was clearly like, all right, something set him off, but there's no excuse for that. And then the Buccaneers caught him. That was it. Like, okay, we don't need you. And that was the last we heard of Shiloh Sanders until today. And I've been debating back and forth because people have listened. That's a problem. It's not in radio. It's a problem in the world, right? So if I say something and it's the game of telephone or whatever it is. So mind you, I always okay, if I'm quoting something else, this is not me saying this, okay? But for the context of the story, that's why I'm just putting this out there. Shiloh Sanders on social media, when responding to the report that it's going to be Deshaun Watson, just kind of is your leading candidate to start, Shiloh Sanders responding to that report, the reporter, go make me a sandwich, Mary.
Probably not the move.
No. It's not even. Part of me is thinking it's not even worth the oxygen talking about this, but this is the Sanders family. This is somebody that the brother, and if you remember too, there was this weird kind of vibe where Gabriel was saying nice things after, and people perceived it as shade toward Shedeur Sanders when really it wasn't. So the whole vibe around Sanders since he came into the league. It's been off. And personnel people knew this. That's why he lasted into the 5th round. He could have gone to Baltimore and been a backup, but nope, I don't want to do that. I want to compete somewhere. And when you look at the Cleveland footage, the Zoom cam footage on draft day number 3, where they take Sanders, they're at the head coach at the time, Kevin Stefanski, they're like,
Here we are.
Yeah, the 50,000-mile stare, just looking into the distance. There's just no, you can tell. It's like, okay, this, just like the Deshaun Watson signing, this let's draft Shedeur Sanders came from above. Give the Browns credit. I guess they're trying everything they can. But for Shiloh Sanders, like, dude, if you want another chance in the NFL, dude, like, saying things like that, out of bounds, and it's not going to help.
Putting that as a distraction towards Sanders trying to succeed, that makes it harder for him to succeed as well. Like, you can't go out there and have your family making you look worse when you're trying to do your job.
Somehow we're making Deshaun Watson look better. Somehow. A man who literally was accused of all these assaults, but yet because the knucklehead brother of the backup quarterback, and that's what he is, a backup quarterback, says something incredibly misogynistic, we're putting Deshaun Watson into a better light. Deshaun Watson's camp going to be like, fantastic. Fantastic. Cleveland Browns never change. Draft ratings, by the way. Funny how whenever you have draft, television ratings, the NFL, we are trumpeting. Look at our ratings. Whoa, year over year. And quite often they don't give you the context. So if you go back to last preseason, if you went to week 1, we are up 15% in TV ratings. Look, everybody loves the NFL. I'm like, all you dip asses, what was on last year? It was the Olympics. So people the year before were watching the Olympics. The Olympics now not there. All right, what's on tonight? All right, let's watch Shedeur Sanders, honestly. And so this year, the NFL is not trumpeting anything. Oh, it was a clever spin. This is like the 3rd ever highest in terms of total numbers, but you're on a gazillion platforms. What does it even matter? NFL draft ratings down 12%. I mean, it's pretty easy to figure out why, right? Let's start with Thursday. Okay, you have one quarterback of interest. Ty Simpson maybe gets drafted. Oh, he went to the Rams. End of story. Wasn't really anything meaty in that draft. There wasn't much suspense at the top. You didn't care who really went 2, 3, or 4 unless you were a particular fan of that team. But, again, bringing this back to Sanders, it was really day 3. It was like, oh, my gosh. And then every fan base was asking that question on the Saturday, should we draft Shedeur Sanders? Would he come here and be our backup? Would he? And that pulled you in. That pulled more people in, and certainly this year it was just more of a typical year. Ryan Talbot, NewYorkUpstate.com, Shout Podcast. We will dig into Bill's rookie minicamp as that will be happening next week. We'll review the NFL draft as well with Ryan. We have time for your calls at 866-4326. Gene Battaglia here on WGR Rochester.
Sports Update.
Game 6 tonight, Buffalo and Boston, a win for the Sabres, and they are on to round 2. A loss, it'll be Game 7 Sunday afternoon, Buffalo. Alex Tuck tonight on the keys for his team.
I think first and foremost, have a really good start. I think we have to come out and have a high level of compete and get to our game early. We had 2 good games in Boston now and just hoping for another one.
Dan Levy, Rob Ray with the call. 7:30 tonight right here on WGR Rochester. Rochester Red Wings look to get back at it tonight after losing 2 on Thursday to Worcester. 6:05 first pitch tonight at the ballpark. Major Leagues, Cubs will be coming up at 2:20. Everything else under the lights. The Yankees hosting the Orioles. The Red Sox hosting Houston. Sports brought to you by GetMyPerks.com. Today, get a $50 certificate to Brown Hound Downtown for half price. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader. WGR Rochester.
Raising the bar on Rochester Sports Talk. You're in the Sports Bar with Gene Battaglia on the Sports Leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950 WGR, Rochester.
How quickly things move because it was only a week ago. Bills hadn't even made a pick yet in the draft. Remember, it was Thursday night, and okay, let's get out of the first round altogether. And here we are. We know the Bills draft class, and now we look ahead to rookie minicamp. And somebody who really keeps track of the UDFAs is Ryan Talbot, and give it us a few minutes. Ryan Talbot from the Shout Podcast, NewYorkUpstate.com. It's been too long since we had Ryan on. Ryan, with rookie minicamp coming up next week, seems like we have a lot of invites, but not a lot of guys who are actually signed as UDFAs. Is that typical, or is this a little unusual?
No, I mean, it's pretty typical, especially when you have limited roster spots as is. So you have almost 10 to 11 UDFA contracts reportedly, and then almost double that many in terms of the rookie minicamp invites. And this is just a way to evaluate what's out there, see if maybe one of these young guys can earn a contract the way, Joe Andreessen did a few years ago. A good opportunity for many prospects that maybe flew under the radar during draft weekend.
Yeah, and it's not only just the guys who didn't get drafted. There's one name that jumps out. Your thoughts on Jermaine Burton, because Burton as a draft prospect seemed like, okay, he's got some character questions for sure, and then he didn't do anything in 2 years in Cincinnati. And coincidentally, it was before the Bills game where, I don't know if he didn't show up or whatever it was, and the Bengals were like, we're kind of done with you. I guess my simple question is, Ryan, why? I mean, is there still anything there left?
The talent is off the charts. It's just the maturity. It's some off-the-field issues. There was a lot going on with him during his days in Cincinnati. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say I'm the biggest fan of the move, but the Bills under Sean McDermott, it felt like no one with red flags was going to be brought in here. Under Joe Brady, maybe they're more willing to at least test the waters. And like I said, rookie minicamp invite. No guarantees, but this was someone that averaged over 19 yards per catch at Georgia and then at Alabama, made some big plays, looked like he was going to be a potential wide receiver number 2 in this league in terms of talent ability. He lands in Cincinnati where you think that's going to be a dream scenario for Joe Burrow, who already had 2 top flight wide receivers, but the maturity, missing meetings, missing walkthroughs. There was an opportunity his rookie season where he was supposed to receive a lot of targets in a game because T. Higgins was already ruled out. Well, he misses the walkthrough the night before. He's ruled inactive, pays a big fine. And then year 2, something again happens before the Buffalo game, and they pretty much say not traveling with the team. He's suspended, so he'll lose a game check. And then they cut him the next day. And then there's some off-the-field issues, too, some accusations against him. So a ton of red flags, but I guess this is a chance for the Bills to see, has he matured? What does he look like? Really good test for some of these young members of the secondary at rookie minicamp to see how they hold up against a guy who has a ton of talent, at least. But, yeah, tons of red flags otherwise.
Oh, I'd have to think, they cannot make a single mistake in terms of, I'm not talking about a drop ball or anything like that. If you're 1 minute late, okay, bye. Ryan, as far as any of these other non-draftees, guys, and again, your tracker, you put this together really nice, as you do every year, and it's always being updated. Any of these names jump out at you?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of interesting names out there. Obviously, Bruno Fina is one that comes to mind. His dad, John Fina, played for the Bills from, I believe, 91 to 2002. Good bloodlines there. He played at UCLA and Duke. Could come in there. Max Tomczak's uncle was Mike Tomczak, a former NFL quarterback. There's some intriguing talent in terms of all these UDFAs. Jamori Macklin as well. Tesman Reed, he's 5'6" tall, but he's dynamite with the ball in his hands, former Pitt running back. Most of these guys are going to really struggle to earn an opportunity on this roster. Now, can they come in and maybe earn a spot on the practice squad, develop for a year or two? Absolutely. If there's one name I'm looking at to make the roster, it's Wisconsin fullback Jackson Aker. He is someone that can run the ball well. He can catch the ball in the backfield, and he's a great blocker. I know the Bills just signed another fullback, so there's some competition at St. John Fisher University this summer, but he would be the one that I would pinpoint as having the strongest chance of making this team.
Yeah, like the fullback palooza we will have here. Reggie Gilliam no longer on the team, and gosh, Ryan, now it's like we've been talking so many years. I remember you tracking Reggie Gilliam coming out of Toledo, and now he's going to be a New England Patriot. Ryan Talbot, NewYorkUpstate.com, Shout Podcast, our guest here. When we're reviewing the draft picks, I'll start with, I think, the one where, all right, this is interesting. If you told me the Bills drafted Skylar Bell in the second round, I would have nodded my head and like, okay, yes, that's somebody who does everything well, and can he kind of grow along the way. But to get him in the fourth round here, Ryan, your thoughts on that pick and where he might fit into the receiving core here, or like what could be the expectation here year one?
Yeah, he my favorite pick of the draft. Reported leading up to the Bills were really interested in him. I like his all-around game. He has that inside-outside versatility. So, yes, he can play in the slot. The Bills already have Khalil Shakir, and I think they're going to tinker with Keon Coleman there. But it never hurts to have another potential weapon that can play out of the slot. But he's also really good on the outside. 4.4 speed, not the biggest receiver, but he was second in this draft class in terms of the contested catch rate. Can do a lot of things really, really well. I think he's a pretty polished route runner for specific routes. I mean, he can definitely expand on that route tree in the NFL, but as a rookie, I don't think you have to put major expectations on him. You brought in DJ Moore to be your wide receiver one. You know what Shakir brings to the table. They are still hyping up Keon Coleman as having something that can be, a valuable addition to this offense, and I believe them. He's putting the work in again. He's working with Stevie Johnson. I think that he can be a contributor, whether that's just in the red zone or however it works out. And then you also have Joshua Palmer coming back in year two on what was a pretty big contract for the Bills in free agency. So, I'm not going to sit here and say wide receivers 3 and 4 are set, but you can ease Skylar Bell in as wide receiver 5 to start out and then let him try to surpass Palmer and Keon Coleman in due time. Whether that's his rookie season or not, we'll see. But the talent is certainly there. He was a player that was at Wisconsin. After he was red-shirted his first year, he put up something around 44 for 500-plus yards, another 130 on the ground. So he proved he could do it against some bigger competition. And then his last 2 years at UConn, both years he went into the transfer portal. And 1 year, Indiana wanted him. And then the other year, he was heavily pursued by Michigan as well. So bigger programs saw the talent, saw the ability. He just thought that he was developing better at UConn, and sure enough, had that breakout season last year.
Ryan, I feel like we haven't talked enough about TJ Parker here on our show and other places. It seems more people are just kind of shrugging their shoulders like, okay, there's another one. Brandon Beane has a type. Could this be different, or is it just more of the same? Your thoughts here on what the Bills did here at pick 35?
Yeah, when it comes to TJ Parker, he definitely fits the prototype of what Brandon Beane is always looking for in his edge rushers in terms of that size, the weight, the height. He's definitely someone that he passes the eye test in terms of the ability and what he can do. So I'm intrigued by him, especially when you look at his 2024 season at Clemson, because Clemson, offense, defense, you name it, they were a mess on both sides of the ball in 2025. But what he showed in 2024 was extremely promising. 19.5 tackles for loss, double-digit sack total. So he does have a little bit more juice than maybe some of these other picks. You know, he's been compared. Epinesa, another day 2 pick that they've drafted. Greg Rousseau, not quite the same prototype. But I do like the fact that he can set the edge. The Bills tried something a little bit different last year with Joey Bosa, and Bosa had his moments, but setting the edge was a big weakness for him. He over-pursued a lot. They got burnt there. He can do that. He can win with some power moves, that being T.J. Parker. And I still think there's more to his game. So I'm intrigued by it. I wouldn't necessarily say that I had that on the radar for the Bills with their first pick. I thought maybe they were going to go with a nose tackle, but I think we've learned, if anything, the Bills are not looking for a traditional nose based on the players that they passed up in this draft, and the defensive tackle that they added in Durant does not fit that mold, and they're still sitting here without, you know, one of those heaping D tackles. So they went with that edge rusher, and it makes sense. Chubb's a big free agent addition for the Bills, but he's also missed time in 3 seasons, and significant time of that due to injuries.
Yeah, and maybe Parker is the heir apparent. Who knows? Going into the draft, I mean, we all knew the needs of the Buffalo Bills, right? More pass rush, maybe a linebacker, certainly wide receiver. But then we looked at the depth of corner, like, wait a second, who's going to be corner 3 on this team? They haven't brought – so it's not a surprise that the Bills took 2 corners. What I am surprised – using another pick in round 2, trading up, using that asset. Igbenison, the corner of Ohio State. Does this mean we could have an actual competition here for the spot opposite Christian Benford?
I don't want to say absolutely, but I do think there's a chance, because you're sitting there and you're looking at Max Hairston. Yes, he's a first-round pick, but that was a Sean McDermott pick, a pick for his system, his defense. Jim Leonard's defense, you know, might lean toward more of a physical cornerback, a bigger cornerback. You got to let them compete, obviously. Hairston showed a lot of promise when he was on the field, a few interceptions, some good pass breakups, utilizing his speed and ability. But he's also missed a ton of time last season. He missed some time in college. He has a smaller frame. So I do think, to a certain extent, there's an opportunity for IGB to come in terms of training camp and potentially win the job. Now, do I think Hairston would have to maybe get injured again and miss some time to really give him those opportunities? Yeah, I think that's potentially part of it. If Hairston can stay healthy, I think you want to lean with the second-year player, but he's going to be there, and, you know, different styles of play. For all the knocks on IGB in terms of where he was on draft boards, I think we've learned this year more than any other that teams don't necessarily look at the media draft boards and the consensus draft boards that are out there. They have their own. And the Bills were really high on this guy, a player that went from 12 defensive penalties in terms of, you know, the holding and things like that to 4 in his final season, because he kind of realized, I'm not turning my head enough. He really worked on that. He improved his game significantly. I like the ability of him. I was a little surprised at where he went, though.
Yeah, Ryan Talbot joining us as the Bills certainly had an interesting draft. We'll see what kind of pans out. 10 picks overall here, Ryan. Of those 10, the guys we haven't talked about already, which one or two of those guys did you really like to pick the most?
Jalen Kilgore. I had him as a day 2 pick, and to get him in round 5 at 167 overall, I think that will be your starter opposite Cole Bishop. Not this year. They have C.J. Gardner-Johnson. I like him a lot, but it's a 1-year deal. They brought in Geno Stone, 1-year deal. DeMar Hamlin back on a 1-year deal. 2027, though, I think you're talking Kilgore and Cole Bishop. The talent for Kilgore is there. He is someone that can be the ball hawk on the back end while you can play Cole Bishop closer to the line. So I thought that was a tremendous value pick. And, you know, probably maybe a little under the radar, Jude Bowery in round 4 with their first pick at 102. I like that pick a lot for a few reasons. One, he has tackle guard versatility. I think that with the left guard job being out there now with David Edwards in New Orleans, I'm not going to necessarily sit here and say that he's the favorite for it, but that can be a true competition this summer. Let a big, athletic, young player come in and compete against a veteran and against Alec Anderson, who has a few years under his belt, see how he holds up. I also wouldn't be shocked where in 2 to 3 years, he could be in the mix for the starting left tackle job. And I know they have Deion Dawkins, who's had a great career. But I think Dawkins is playing for a lot this year. He talked at the end of last season about how he's got to come in this year in better shape. And he's kind of reaching that age now, too, where you kind of have to watch, is he losing anything? And if he does have a letdown season, his contract after this year, you could potentially move that. And Bowery has all the traits and intangibles that at least make me think he has the ability to one day take on that role. Now, we've seen a ton of players over the course of draft history that never reached those ceilings, but he tested off the charts in terms of athleticism and that relative athletic score.
That's interesting stuff there. Ryan, before we let you go here, because from last year, specifically on defense, there are a lot of names that are still sitting out there as unsigned free agents. You mentioned Bosa. We've talked about Tre'Davious White, Shaq Thompson, Milano. Epineza got kicked back by the Browns. I don't know, if he's going to get another opportunity here. Your thoughts on what you would like to see if any of these guys come back and compete for a job here in 2026?
Yeah, I think Shaq Thompson of the names makes the most sense to bring back. I know they drafted Caleb Elarmzor, who was a pre-draft visitor. Doesn't necessarily have the prototypical size that you want, but he has the speed, athleticism. He kind of fits a mold of what they've drafted over the past few years. But I think bringing back an entrenched veteran, someone that really knows how to play in a 3-4, a 4-3, a hybrid. He's done that in his career, and I think this is going to truly be a hybrid defense under Jim Leonard. Makes a lot of sense. Trey White would definitely love to see him back. Is he content being cornerback 3 or 4? Yeah. I don't know. The longer he sits out there, though, you think maybe. And I like Toriano Pride Jr. There's a lot of intangibles about him, but I'm not going to sit here and say a guy in round 7 is going to make this roster as a rookie. But 4.32 speed, there's some things to like. I still think they have the ability to bring in a veteran or two, though, at cornerback. And then I don't want to close the door on Brandon Cooks, but man, it's a numbers game there already with 5 guys that we've already mentioned here. Eventually, when they get healthy at that position too, it just kind of gets difficult to envision what he would be able to do or what his role would be on this team. So of all those guys that are still sitting out there, I think that Shaq Thompson and Trey White make the most sense.
Well, do give Ryan a follow if you are interested in the tracker, who are the Bills, because that's constantly being updated. As Ryan, brought up the fullback from Wisconsin, Jackson Acker, and some of these other names like Max Tomczak. Ryan, tell everybody about the Shout podcast and when things are coming up and where you can get more of your content here.
Yeah, absolutely. You can find the Shout podcast on all your favorite podcast platforms. We also stream live on YouTube, Facebook, and X. I believe we'll have an episode later today, in fact, before the Sabres game. And then we go, in season, we're going 5 times about per week. So definitely check that out. You can find my work at Syracuse.com and NYF.com.
Ryan, thank you for taking time out of your day today. Appreciate it. And let's do this again soon.
Absolutely. Have a good one.
Ryan Talbot from NewYorkUpstate.com and the Shout podcast as the Bills, shaping their 90-man roster that they will bring to camp. Still a lot of decisions to be made. That was, and I love these different. Bowery perhaps as the heir apparent to Deion Dawkins. I want to give Deion a pass because the one game he looked terrible was the Houston game. And what, did he have a concussion that game? He got knocked. And sometimes you don't know, and I don't think he knew. Nobody knew, but he woke up the next day. But that was it was a bad game all around for that offensive line. But the point is, how many years is he in? That was Sean McDermott's first draft class. And sometimes left tackles, see Trent Williams, you can play a long time this year in this career. Jason Peters and everything else. But it's always good to have kind of a plan B, is it not? And it's good that, all right, this is certainly a position that, look, it's sound. That offensive line is good. But continue to be good. And because this was a draft that was so good on the offensive line, and Drew Bowery in round 4, maybe some other year he would have gone round 3 or round 2. So good stuff from Ryan Talbot. We'll talk a little hockey next hour with Matthew Fairburn from The Athletic, who joins us from Boston. We'll have Terrible Take Timmy's. Terrible take. I missed that up. Terrible Time Timmy's Terrible Take of the Day. It's Schneider time coming up next. My name is Gene Battaglia here on WGR Rochester.
on the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 WGR, Rochester.
We will be talking to Matthew Fairburn from The Athletic. He is in Boston. Logan Stanley, a game time decision tonight. And, wow. I'm trying to imagine, are we playing some Bruno Martino in the show on Monday? We'll call it a Buffalo Victory Monday. Or are we doing the autopsy? Are we figuring out, wait a second, what happened here? And the funny thing is, right now, I do think the Sabres will get this done. I do. I don't see them losing 2 in a row to Boston. I do think the Sabres are the more talented team. But it's hockey. There are so many different scenarios how this could fall apart. And let me just say this on record. Whatever happens here with Buffalo, if it does blow up, I would stay the course. Honestly, like this nucleus is good. And going into this, I thought, okay, winning a series, would it be a good step? And then we'll see where it kind of goes from there. Because if you get to Tampa the next round, let's say, for example, that's a team with a boatload of experience, right? And sure, Buffalo won all 4 in the regular season, and this is a different animal. Maybe Tampa doesn't get there. Maybe it's Montreal. Montreal's, that's a tougher matchup than Boston. Can we nod our head? Yeah. 7:30 tonight. For the call, Dan Dunleavy, Rob Ray here on WGR Rochester.
It's now time for Terrible Time Timmy's Terrible Take of the Day on WGR Rochester. WGR Rochester. It's Terrible Time Timmy.
The Sabres need to get it done tonight or Sunday so we can play a much better song in some Bruno Martino. That is what I'm hoping for.
That is what you're hoping for.
Not my take, but that
okay.
that is my hope now for that, because it's been a while since we've heard that.
If we put it to the poll, I do think it's catchy. I do think it's great. You hate it. Trust me. I know people don't like it. I think it sticks.
We're getting used to it as far as I am willing to go. Something else we're getting used to is talking about this story damn near every day.
Okay,
actually, I think it has been every day.
Okay, I don't have anything today on Rossini Vrabel other than just kind of rehash regurgitated stuff. Do you have
kind of?
something?
Let me open it up with this.
All right.
I am of the opinion that we are allegedly correct about this Diana Rossini story in regards to the incident with the car accident incident, the post-incident PR move. So
okay, back up and explain what. This is only a few days after the story broke. What happened with Rossini and the Jeep here?
There was factually a Jeep accident somewhere in wherever Rossini lives. I think New Jersey.
Okay.
And it was reported that there was an accident, and that was it. And then the next story comes out, and Diana Rossini's name is in it somehow. So I don't know if her PR people or if she knows somebody who works in the industry or what. But
right. So the Jeep, it doesn't flip; it falls on its side. And Jeeps are Jeeps, right? It's not even a sunroof. And I don't know, some elderly man and a dog, and she's the one climbing in and yanking everybody out. Right. That's kind of what we were led to believe. But this was such a salacious story. It was like we were on to the next thing. Saving a dog. You're going to tell me this isn't true now.
I'm not telling you that, but there is reason to believe that did not occur as it was indicated, because she is nowhere in the police reports, which have now been released on the internet. She is not named anywhere in that other than a story on, I believe it was Page 6. And that Page 6 story has now almost recanted its own story. The author or the publisher or the writer itself has almost changed entirely the story, saying that the information originally obtained from one witness is completely different from a witness that was in the police report. Therefore, as we said, as it was happening, basically, yeah, right, haha, PR stunt.
And
I think we found our PR stunt.
Yeah, like legitimately, she witnessed an accident And now what's being said is that she might have held the leash for the dog while the gentleman was helped out.
Yes.
That's a little different than going in and pulling people out of the wreckage. I'm Diane Orsini. Yes, don't talk about me in that way. I'm a hero. I'm a heroine. Like, okay. It amazes me that somebody who works in our business at the highest level couldn't understand that people would fact check that, number one. Couldn't understand that, hey, if you're having an affair and you left all these breadcrumbs and everything else around the internet and people, or you just don't care. Like legitimately, you came up through TMZ. The thing that I'm waiting for is this, and it seems like they've kind of closed the ranks on this. It's funny how all the people in our business stayed away from this.
Yeah, it really makes you wonder.
Portnoy, Dan Patrick, ESPN. Nobody. Okay, what? You're above all this? You had her on as a guest. This guy went to a Super Bowl as a head coach, and you don't want to comment on this? Like Barstool, I understand because that's. I mean, they're New England Hawks. They were protecting one of their own in the coach. That's really what that is about. ESPN not going anywhere near this. This is my theory, Tim, is because they kind of sort of knew why you don't go from the ESPN to the Athletic. And I just not – that's not the way it kind of goes. You go the opposite direction.
From print to TV.
Yeah, print to TV. You're making money the other direction. I'm like, okay, that's kind of an interesting move. Well, thank you for that update. And the bottom line is everybody's okay in that accident, right? I assume.
As far as I know, but I think that the accident was created out of it. We wouldn't even know about the accident without Rossini trying to make herself part of the hero within it. But I'm sure there'll be more on Monday that we'll catch up on.
Well, I see. Thank you for that because I didn't think, today's going to be the day. I don't have anything on this, and then you found it for us. 585-866-4326. We will talk. Hey, how about the Knicks up by 47 at halftime? I get home, I'm thinking, all right, what the heck? Okay, great. Moving on. Gene Battaglia with you on WGR Rochester.
D2 and W239BF Rochester. The sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950 WGR Rochester. An Odyssey sports station. WGR Rochester. Sports update.
It's Game 6 tonight. Buffalo and Boston win for the Sabres, and they are on to round 2. And a loss, it's on to Game 7 Sunday afternoon. Logan Stanley is a game-time decision, a little under the weather. Marty Baron on Sabres Live today gives us his read on the situation.
You know what? Like Logan Stanley, my history with those situations is you get on the ice, you practice, and you're like, I'm good to go. But I do believe that now that he's here, skated this morning, I would anticipate Logan Stanley to be in the lineup.
Dan Dunleavy, Rob Ray with the call tonight, 7:30 here on the Sports Leader. We'll talk some Sabres later this hour as we'll go to Boston. Matthew Fairburn from The Athletic to join us. Rochester Red Wings looking to get back at it after getting swept in a doubleheader on Thursday. 6:05 the first pitch tonight. Yankees hosting the Orioles, the Red Sox hosting Houston. Gene Battaglia, the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, WGR Rochester.
Pull up a chair, stay for a while. You're in the sports bar on WGR. Grab a drink, hang your coke, and sports talk. Live from Western New York. It's a master show. 9 times better than your typical host. 9 times. Gene and Tim have takes much hotter than most. No one cares when you're out. Sabres! Bills! Americans! Red Wings and Nighthawks! Sports bar! For Rochester Sports Talk.
We're high-stepping to the weekend. Thank you for sticking with us. Thank you for joining us. My name is Gene Battaglia. This is Rochester Sports Leader. Hour number 2 coming your way as we have time for your calls at 866-4326. That is brought to you by Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub. Award-winning barbecue from Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub, 135 West Commercial Street, East Rochester, goodsmokebbq.com. Make your Mother's Day reservations now. It's not this Sunday. Oh, my gosh, it's next Sunday. Mom gets a free mimosa at Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub. 866-4326 is our number. Matthew Fairburn will be joining us here this hour as we will talk some Sabres. Matthew Fairburn covering the Sabres for The Athletic. I always have trouble staying up, for these West Coast games. And last night there, was a story, certainly, like, wait a second. After getting to the finals back-to-back years, the flame extinguished. Edmonton, out. Okay. Now, that's tough to get back to the finals a third straight year, and they're not going to be hockey's version of the Buffalo Bills, right, getting back. And I thought Connor McDavid said something interesting. It was just kind of average, that his team was kind of average. Like, okay, that's, like the expectation is here, but we were an average team, which some may perceive like you're pointing the finger at your GM. You're Connor McDavid. You need more help than just Leon Draisaitl. Figure this out. And sure, Canadian teams are at a disadvantage. Like if free agents have an option. But my gosh, like the idea that Connor McDavid is going to still be without the postseason. Here, walk down with me on this path. Like cup finals are always fun, right? If your team isn't in it, all right, is there a team, is there a person you can kind of get behind? And for the better part of the early 2010s, the team that we would just point and laugh at year after year, like what is wrong with this team? It was the Washington Capitals. I remember the first year we were doing this show, it's 2016. We had Linda Cohn, the great Linda Cohn, formerly of ESPN, talking about, all right, the Washington's the top seed. Is this year? If not now, when? And the answer was nope, wasn't then, but it would happen. And when it wouldn't happen, though, you would have, I remember one year in Pittsburgh, somebody held up a sign, and it was Alex Ovechkin, as if he's holding the Stanley Cup, hoisting it. Instead, he's hoisting golf clubs, which... It's just
solid troll.
Yeah, that is a solid troll. Honestly, if it ends up being a game 7, that's where I would love to, somebody like a Zadorov hoisting golf clubs. Adios, guys. But Ovechkin was always the guy that, all right, he's the greatest, but he's not built for playoff hockey, right? He's the guy who doesn't back check. He doesn't do the little things. He just likes to play on the power play and score, and good for him. But, maybe this is like John Cherry Cheap, his ideology, seeping through. Like, no, North American hockey's played this way, and it's European. That's something changed, though, the 1 year. Like, Ovechkin and the Caps win, and they win, and it could have been just the fact that, all right, they're playing against Vegas. Come on. Vegas in their first year's getting to the final? No. Let's give it to Ovechkin. In the world, the NHL world, there's always some that would support him, but I felt like the majority of us were like, okay, give this to Ovechkin. You can tell how much he wants this. And maybe we were a little bit off in our criticism before, but this is a guy, at the time, he's a veteran. He's the old guy here. He's really, really old. Now here's the kicker. Ovechkin, when he did that finally and won the cup and the excitement, you remember that? Just and of all the drunken, stupid NHL teams, I mean, I'll include St. Louis where they're drinking on the plane. It was Boston one year ringing up a ridiculous bar bill. But that just seemed like a week-long bender for Washington and their fans. And hey, I'm not going to wave my finger and say don't do that. You earned it. And it made Ovechkin even more lovable. Like, wow, this guy finally did it here. And he's only got a few more kicks at the can. He was 32 at the time. 32. Coming up in January, Connor McDavid will turn 30. Yeah. Uh-huh. Maybe people say this about Josh Allen now that he's going to be 32. Like, all right, around like, okay, but NFL quarterbacks, it seems like you have kind of a longer flight, and we could go over the reasons why the Bills haven't done it, but you could argue with me that Josh Allen's one of the reasons, and I would say no. Like, the loss to Cincinnati the 1 year at home, sure, that was a terrible game from Allen. But everything else along the way, 4 turnovers in Denver, not great. He's playing with a broken foot. Connor McDavid, I think, is kind of in that same boat. Like, what more do you want this guy to do? Josh Allen's not going anywhere. We say from time to time, like, look, will he finish his career in Buffalo? Well, you win a Super Bowl here. You don't have to worry about that, right? You do whatever you want to do, Josh. You brought us something here we never had before. For Connor McDavid, I feel like the window is way more shut than what you have in Buffalo. Meaning, yeah, McDavid signed, but he's only under contract for 2 more years. And by being under contract for 2 more years, all right, you don't get it done next year, then it's full on, all right, are you finishing up in Edmonton or not? So it feels like this coming year for Edmonton is their do or die year. Unless, dare I say, if you are a clever team and want to make sure, I don't like how during the regular season teams from Canada stateside kind of get ignored. You follow the talent, people won't care. I grew up in the 80s. You got to trust me on that one. Like, Edmonton was great, and they were on all the time on the USA Network with Dan Kelly and Gary Green. And it was just fine. But this was NBC originally, like on NBCSN. They just ignored Canada altogether. Just trying to chase pennies instead of that should have been the NHL saying, no, let's highlight our guy. And is there a team? Well, sure, every team should be like, can we actually do this? Could we afford to do this? So I just think what happens in Edmonton this offseason, I don't think McDavid gets moved. But they got to do something, right? They always seem like the top-heavy team that just cannot get this done. And I think it's disappointing. Anybody want to see the Anaheim Ducks? No. Not at all. Don't care. Do not care about the Anaheim Ducks. Pretty new uniforms you got. That's all I have. That's all I got for you. So, tonight we do get the 3 games. Vegas and Utah being the late game at 10 o'clock, which if that goes to double overtime, that means Tim will be up till 3 in the morning, which means you'll get to bed around 5. But I got good news for you. We don't have a show tomorrow.
Yeah, it's the weekend. Maybe I'll stay up all night.
Yeah, like tomorrow is one of those days where, like, okay, Sabres tonight, and then we'll have thoughts, and then either we put a pin in that. If
we got to hold them.
We got to hold them, or those thoughts quickly evaporate. If they lose, all right, then it goes to Game 7. So we are going to have a lot to talk about when we get back on Monday. So 3 games in the NHL tonight: Lightning and Canadiens, 7. Sabres Bruins here on WGR Rochester, and Vegas and Utah, and all those being Game 6s. Should point out, Tim, that they're already starting the second round. So this is not the NBA. The NHL will overlap rounds. So if Montreal and Tampa go to a Game 7, if Boston and Buffalo go to a Game 7, and if you're a Sabre fan, you're probably like, don't even say that. Don't suggest that, Gene. Fine. Saturday night, Flyers, Hurricanes, 8 o'clock.
Getting right into it.
Yeah, they get right into it, which I'm totally fine with it. Now, if we're going by that pattern, if we have no Game 7s on Sunday, and the TV, are we just going to go dark? Or could we have a ridiculous turnaround? I haven't seen this anywhere yet. Say Montreal wins tonight and Buffalo wins tonight. Fantastic. Well, does that mean then? I don't think so, because when did that Flyers series wrap up? Was it Tuesday or?
They beat the Penguins on Wednesday.
Wednesday.
And so did the Canadiens.
Okay, so the Wednesday. So they gave it was an extra day. So, like, I would think maybe I would be stunned if we jumped to the second round. But right now, as it stands, if all these series get wrapped up in 6 games, we won't have any hockey on Sunday. I can't imagine them starting a series on Sunday as on 2 days rest. They might want to give it an extra beat, which means we could have Game 1 on Monday night, which that would be a lot of fun too. But
as long as Buffalo's hosting, it doesn't matter what day it is.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm not being greedy. We all have that friend that is like, it would be good for the economy to have Buffalo lose tonight, and then Game 7, and then the hotels and everything else. And I don't know why I gave that person kind of a drunken Kermit the Frog voice, but we all know that person, right? Like, yeah, we want to make more money. Let's just have it go to Game 7 and win in Buffalo and have a big old party. White made the point this morning. Game 7 in Buffalo, the vibe for that is going to be like, oh, my God, what are we doing here? Oh, no. It would have a totally different feel than Game 1. We're like, yeah, let's go. Yeah, woo. Game 5, yeah, let's finish them off. Game 7, oh, no, we can't lose 3 in a row to Boston. Like that. To me, that would. Is that worse than the Patriots getting the Super Bowl this year?
I would say yes.
I'd say no.
We're directly involved in this one.
Losing to Denver means you were 2 steps away from where New England got. So, what would be worse? I guess from the standpoint that, like Boston, because they don't win anything. They need this one. They get to tap dance again here.
Just take care of business tonight. We don't even have to think about it. A 4-hour stomach ache on Sunday if it gets to that point.
Yeah, I personally, and if Sunday means no NHL and I'm doing yard work, that's actually a good sign. Matthew Fairburn, he is in Boston. He is the great Matthew Fairburn from Fairburn Friday, way back in the day. We're reviving that here in the Sports Bar. We'll talk to Matthew here coming up next. On the other side, last call is for you at 866-4326. The area code, proudly 585. Gene Battaglia here on WGR Rochester.
update.
It's Game 6 tonight. Buffalo and Boston win for the Sabres, and they move on to round 2, a loss. And we'll have a Game 7 Sunday afternoon in Buffalo. Alex Tuck on the keys for his team tonight.
I think first and foremost, have a really good start. I think we have to come out and have a high level of compete and get to our game early. We had 2 good games in Boston now, and just hoping for another one.
Dan Dunleavy, Rob Ray with a call 7:30 tonight here on WGR Rochester. We'll talk to our friend Matthew Fairburn from The Athletic, talk some Sabres coming up next year. Rochester Red Wings looking to bounce back after getting swept in a doubleheader on Thursday. It's at 6:05 first pitch at the ballpark. Team also home on Saturday and Sunday. Major Leagues, the Cubs just underway against Arizona. Yankees hosting the Orioles, the Red Sox hosting Houston. Gene Battaglin, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, WGR Rochester.
Top Shelf Sports Talk. You're hanging out in the sports bar with Gene Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 WGR, Rochester.
And I think Sabre fans would love to have a Sunday off. I'm just thinking. I'm sure there's a few that are like, yeah, I wouldn't mind going to a Game 7. I got my tickets for Game 7. No, not at all. We are joined now from Boston. Matthew Fairburn, longtime friend of the show, on the Sabre beat, doing a good job. And Matthew, it's fun, when we're talking about the third defensive pair and the impact. That's how you know how big these games are. What's your kind of gut here telling you about whether we'll see Logan Stanley tonight? Matthew, how are you?
I'm doing well. It's 60 and sunny today in Boston, so good day for good day for an elimination game. Good day for a big game. It's always hard to say with something like an illness on a guy. Logan Stanley was able to get out there and skate this morning, and to me, if this were Rasmus Dahlin or one of the top 4 defensemen or one of your big-time players, you're going to take that guy at 75, 80%. But it seems like it would be a different conversation with a third-pair guy like Logan Stanley. Now, Logan Stanley's been really good in this series. He's been really important. He's been incredibly steady. I think he's got 1 giveaway in 5 games of this series, which is, a pretty great number for a defenseman. He's had that physical presence in front of the net and in the corners, and I think has calmed the series down at times in that way. But if he's not, I don't know what he was dealing with, but Lindy Ruff mentioned he wasn't really eating there for a day or two, and you don't want somebody at 60, 70%, if the decisions aren't going to be as quick, if he's not going to be as sharp, with the puck. But you're putting a guy in there potentially in Michael Kesselring who hasn't played in a little while and might have some of those first game of the playoff type jitters. But man, it would be a pretty cool story if Kesselring gets in. He grew up in Nashua, New Hampshire. He played college hockey at Northeastern. He spends his summers here, trains at Warrior a bit in the summer. So it'd be a pretty cool story for a sort of homecoming for a guy that's gone through a lot this year. But I think when Stanley's fully healthy, it's still his spot. It's just he's obviously not there right now.
Yeah, I mean, what does it say about the depth here when you got a guy like Zach Metza? Matthew, he might be like defenseman number 8 on this team? They have some choices here for sure if Stanley can't go tonight.
Yeah, and I think for sure if Stanley can't go, it's Kesselring. Okay. But it speaks to what you're saying. I mean, at the beginning of the year, they thought Kesselring might be a top 4 guy for them, and injuries and different things, made that not the case. But he's still got that kind of talent, that kind of ability, and he's healthier than he's been in quite a while. So it's definitely the strength of this team is the options they have. You mentioned Metza is probably your 8. Maybe even your 9, depending on how you look at Luke Shen, just with the playoff experience. And Metza played some really good hockey this year. So that's a good, deep defense group to have. And then even up front, Noah Ostlund going down last game was a bit of a gut punch considering how well he had played. But when your option then is to plug Josh Norris right back into the lineup, a guy that when they acquired him, Lindy Ruff said he thought he could be a number 1 center. That's what he was in training camp for this team. again, pretty good depth and a lot of good options. So I think they're still in a pretty good spot, even though they're at less than 100% health going into this game.
We're talking to Matthew Fairburn, who is in Boston. You're just speaking a little bit as Lindy Ruff had his pregame presser there. A little bit more on Norris, if we can kind of dive into this. Like, what kind of line will he be on tonight? Does he just plug him in where Austin was, or are things going to get mixed up? What's your sense on that, Matthew?
Yeah, they're plugging him right back in where Ostlund was, which is where Norris was for games 1 and 2. So right between Zach Benson and Josh Doan, keeping all the other lines the same. And I think that's, probably for the best. You don't want to overreact to losing a game 2-1 in overtime. And these lines have worked pretty well. I think if you look at Krebs, Thompson, Tuck, and Zucker, McLeod, Quinn, those are the two highest minute lines in the regular season. So they've spent a lot of time together, and they have a pretty good chemistry. And Norris, I think, probably wasn't quite 100% in games 1 and 2, and maybe wasn't at times down the stretch. Now he's only had 10 days off, so he's probably not whatever he was dealing with probably hasn't gone away completely. That's the case for a lot of these guys in the playoffs, but I think he's probably feeling better than he was in game 2, that's for sure. And they have him back on the top power play unit as well, where Ostlund was. So they're feeling pretty good. Lindy Ruff said he thought at practice yesterday Norris was skating, as well as he has in a little bit. And this is a guy that has scored 30-plus goals before. I look back to his first game back. I was looking at this morning. He came back. He got injured in game 1. He came back, whatever it was, in the early December home game against the Jets, had 2 goals and an assist. So, I think people have gotten frustrated with Norris's lack of availability, which is fair, but when he's healthy,
when he's out there,
he's still a really impactful player.
Yeah.
And I think he might be healthier than he's been in a while.
Good. That's all good for Sabre fans as we're talking to Matthew Fairburn. Boy, this Boston team, Matthew, it's all right that they get in because they have talent. They have a goaltender. They have a top line, and they have a play that I just wanted to kind of get your thoughts, because it was more of we saw more of the breakaways, particularly against UPL here in earlier in this series. But and again, they're not. It's not the same. It's not apples to apples. But that design play where guy coming off the bench, here's Pasternak kind of sneaking behind, and bam! As soon as he gets the puck, you're like, oh no, this is it. Sure enough, it's it. The Boston, is there an adjustment do you think the Sabres should make in that regard? Is Boston exploiting this? Your thoughts on the idea that, okay, if you're going to give up breakaways and odd man rushes tonight, I don't like their chances here, Matthew.
Yeah, it's weird. They have that play was a little bit funky because Pasternak was coming off the bench, and so the timing was just a little bit fortunate for the Bruins because Krebs had the puck coming into the Sabres offensive zone. I think he probably should have dumped the puck in. It was the end of a long shift for Krebs. He should have dumped the puck in. He went for the play to McLeod because McLeod was breaking in alone. And Lindy Ruff didn't seem to have a problem with the fact that he went for that play. It's just the execution was not there. He got pickpocketed. So the turnover happens as Pasternak stepping onto the ice. It's kind of just unfortunate timing. But to your point, something the Bruins have been doing all series long. I mean, Pasternak does that all the time. He's a bit of a cherry picker, and he'll blow the zone if it looks like the Bruins are going to get possession in the defensive zone. He'll blow the zone early and try to, get those breakaways. But something that the Bruins have been doing too is that high flip out of the zone, because that's sort of to combat the Sabres' aggressiveness from their defensemen, right? Is, okay, you're going to be pinching in. We're going to just flip the puck over you, and maybe once or twice a game it'll end up in, a breakaway or an odd man rush. Also, they do that because they can't break the puck out regularly as well as a lot of teams. They're one of the worst teams in the league at it. I think if you look at game 4 would be a perfect example. The amount of easy, unpressured breakout attempts that they just botched. Charlie McAvoy winging a pass 5 feet wide of his winger for that first goal of the game from Peyton Krebs, and then Jordan Harris, kind of tripping over himself on the way out of the zone and getting pickpocketed for a Zach Benson goal, like they're not a good team breaking the puck out. And so it's kind of a default for them anyways to just flip it out, the high flip out of the zone. It relieves pressure. They keep 5 men back. But when Pasternak's out there, he is looking to get behind. And I think it is a little tricky when a defenseman is dealing with the high flip. I think they're pretty comfortable with it. But when it's the forward covering for the defenseman who pinched in, it's a different position to be in than they're used to being as a back checker. So it's, one of those weird, like, matchup things, right? That, like, the Bruins have this one thing that they do that's kind of a pain in the neck for the Sabres. I think they've gotten used to it, and I think that Pasternak one in overtime was just, a matter of timing was just right for the Sabres' mistake and Pasternak coming on the ice at the exact same time. But they do have to be mindful of him because he's been kind of up and down in this series, Pasternak has, but he's gotten a lot of those breakaways. And it does feel like he's due, like he got that game winner, but it feels like he's due for even more as far as finishing some of his chances. So I imagine they'll be pretty keyed in on him tonight, particularly when he's trying to sneak behind.
Yeah, for sure. Matthew, we have 3 Game 6s in the league tonight. And it's a reminder that, the NHL will overlap here. We get a Game 1 tomorrow night, Philadelphia and Carolina. Do we have any idea when round 2 would begin here for either Buffalo or Boston?
I think it would be – I don't know for sure. We don't have kind of any real concrete info from the NHL at this point, which isn't a huge shock.
Shocking. Oh, you're kidding me. Wow.
Considering how they dealt with the round 1 schedule. I mean, even the Carolina-Philly game, they announced it at like 1 a.m., which it's like I don't know what the thought process is behind announcing that at 1 a.m., but regardless, not my business, I guess. There's a chance if Buffalo and Montreal win tonight, I would say there's an outside chance. Maybe it's more than an outside chance. I don't know. It's not out of the question that they would start on Sunday.
Wow.
With Game 1 because they have done that before, and it would be a day off and travel-wise, it wouldn't be too taxing. My gut tells me if they both win, they might still push it to Monday. But because that Carolina-Philly series is already starting, they don't want that to get too far ahead of the round 2 series on the other side. But that would require, obviously, both Buffalo and Montreal winning because, Montreal's up 3-2 on Tampa. If either one of those go to Game 7, those Game 7s are on Sunday, which means you can't start, in my opinion, you can't start until Tuesday. You have to give them at least one day off. And at that point, you would be 2 games in. I would imagine you're at least 2 games into the Carolina-Philly series. If they don't go, because they haven't even announced Game 2 for that series. They just announced Game 1. So it's like, these people in Philly that went down, for Game 1 don't know when Game 2 is going to be. They could give them the 2 days in between games. Yep. But then it would be Game 2's on Tuesday and Game 1 of the other series is on Tuesday. So we'll see. But knowing the NHL, just set your alarm for 1 or 2 in the morning one of these nights, and they'll let you know.
I love Matthew Fairburn dripping in sarcasm here. As it wouldn't surprise me at all if hey everybody, we'll do this again Sunday. The solution here is easy, Matt. Sabres win tonight. Game 7 for Tampa, Montreal. I just have to ask you for thoughts, and it's difficult. I understand because you're covering the Sabres. Some of these games are running concurrently, so we really can't take in that series. But just kind of your thoughts here, Montreal or Tampa moving ahead here. Does Montreal get this done tonight, in your opinion?
I don't know. Something tells me the experience of Tampa, like they'll fight to keep that thing alive. That we saw the other night what the pressure of trying to close out a series at home can do to a young team, right? I think it showed up for the Sabres a little bit. So I'm not necessarily taking Montreal being on home ice as a big factor in their favor. But I think for a variety of reasons, Montreal is the preferred opponent if Buffalo advances. You could quibble over the matchup. Like maybe it's a worse matchup. Maybe Tampa's not quite as good of a team. But I think it would just be a much better hockey to watch. I think if you're the Sabres dealing with the Lightning for 7 games of what they're going to bring to the table with the, with the fighting, with the post-whistle stuff, like that's going to wear on a team over the course of 7 games. So I think if you're Buffalo, you're kind of, maybe it's just me. Maybe I'd rather go to Montreal. But I think Montreal will get it done and win the series. Like I think they're the better team. I think the age is catching up to Tampa a little bit, and it's part of why they play the way that they play is because it helps them drag teams down. And I think Montreal is ready to take that step. I just don't know if they're going to get it done at home tonight.
So talk about announcements that come out of the clear blue. Hey, and you were there to get Lindy's thoughts on this. They announced the 3 finalists for the Jack Adams Award, the Coach of the Year. And it's no surprise. It's Lindy. It's Dan Muse of Pittsburgh. It's John Cooper of Tampa. Now, I would just say this. Like, if it's based on the regular season alone, okay, which team finished ahead? Oh, there's Buffalo ahead of Tampa, and they beat Tampa head-to-head 4 times. But then could they give it as a Lifetime Achievement Award here to Cooper, perhaps? I'm surprised to learn that he's never won it here, Matt. Explain to us, like, should this be Lindy hands down, or might the award go to someone else?
I feel like John Cooper should be a distant third among the 3 finalists, but I cannot sit here and confidently tell you how the broadcasters are going to pick that award. And so that's where maybe they do view kind of a lifetime achievement factor of all of it. But I just look at, to me, I think it should be Lindy Ruff. I'm very impressed by what Dan Muse did in Pittsburgh. I don't think anybody was picking that team to make the playoffs. He also does have the benefit of, probably the most one of the best leaders, one of the most professional guys there is in Sidney Crosby, to kind of help steer the ship a little bit on the ice, right? Like I think that's a built-in benefit that is a little different than what Lindy Ruff is dealing with. I mean, that's a veteran, even though they're in the middle of kind of a rebuild in Pittsburgh, they've got that core of veteran guys that have won cups. That's why I look at Cooper and I think, like, look at this lineup. He's got Kucherov, he's got Vasilevsky, he's got Point and Hagel, and all these guys. Hedman has been in and out this year, but like he's got all these guys that have been there and done that. And the reason I steer away from Cooper, like if it were me, is I forget the exact number, but if you look at the games this year in the NHL where there was the most penalty minutes, like Tampa was in like all of them, all of like the top 5 or 6. Like there was like a handful that went over 100, and Tampa was involved in pretty much all of them. And, that starts behind the bench to me. Like that's how they play. And I don't think there's anything necessarily to celebrate about that. And so you didn't win your division. You finished behind the Sabres. And I look at where the Sabres were in December, and people talking about Lindy Ruff getting replaced behind the bench, nationally anyways. And, for him to help turn this thing around, I think it was a hell of an impressive coaching job. And, they go out and win the division from where they were. People were picking them as like a sneaky playoff team. They weren't picking them as a team that would win the Atlantic Division. Tampa came into the season as a potential Stanley Cup pick. Pittsburgh came into the season as a lottery team. That's how people were projecting them. So I get the Dan Muse love, and I think he did a great job as a young coach with that team. But the Cooper stuff is just, in my opinion, he's getting there. He's in there because of what he's done in his career and his reputation, and I just don't think that's how the award should be decided.
Matthew Fairburn, tonight, it's Game 6, Buffalo in Boston, and people want more content. Tell everybody, some of the things that we can go check out here at The Athletic here, Matthew.
Yeah, people can go to theathletic.com/Sabres and find everything we've been writing in this series. Tim Graham had a column up yesterday on the Sabres fans picking up the slack on O Canada the other night, which was a pretty cool moment. I've got a fresh notebook up this morning and, some things from earlier in the week that people can check out. And, of course, we'll have everything covered here in Boston as well. So, yeah, people can find it all there.
Matthew, appreciate it, and we'll kind of like overlook the fact that you covered the Patriots for a little bit, so like we still like you here, bud. So
Yeah, it's one of those blemishes on my resume that people forget about, but it's good that you remind people.
I got to bring that up there. So we tease because we care. Matthew, thanks for your time today, and let's do this again soon.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me.
All right, thanks. Matthew Fairburn, our guest here in the Sports Bar. Like by rough, this is an amazing stat. It's the 5th time he's been nominated. He's only won it once. That ties him for the most nominations for Coach of the Year all time. Scotty Bowman. Okay, yeah, like Scotty Bowman, great of all time, right? Tortorella. Okay, like you've realized, yeah, he won a cup in Tampa. What was that, 07? Like going way back? Right after his time with the Amerks. Alain Vigneault. I never would have guessed Alain Vigneault. But, I hope it's going to be Lindy, but you never know how the broadcasters will vote. Last call is for you. Our phone number, 585-866-4326. Gene Battaglia here on WGR Rochester.
Rochester's home for live sports and the best sports talk anywhere. The Sports Bar with Gene Battaglia, 95.7 FM and AM 950 WGR, Rochester.
What day is today, Tim Schneider? Go.
Friday.
Okay, be more specific. It's
May 1st?
It's May Day. Credit to Joe Yurden. The stars are aligning. You know, if you're a Sabre fan, the May Day call. That was a playoff win, clinching win over the Boston Bruins. Could you imagine the Sabres actually knocking out the Bruins on May Day itself? Now, the history lesson here being, all right, this is the odd. This is way back. And this is a game that goes to double overtime, and it ends at like at 2 in the morning, okay? But everybody in Buffalo is going nuts. It's 1993. Tim, I'm still in college at this point. It's game 4, first round. So May Day wasn't even in May. It was April 24th, 1993. But then Brad May gets behind the defense. At defense or Boston, pretty gassed at that point. But May makes this incredible move, puts it in, and just Jenneret just going off the top of his head with the May Day call. Here's Tim Schneider dealing it up for us.
Bring it up to LaFontaine. He gets tripped up, gets it to May, and over the line. He's May going in on goal. He shoots. He Mayday! 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 Brad May wins it in overtime.
So good.
Oh, it is so good. And look, we had John Sterling on our show once, and I have great respect for John Sterling. But that May Day call, that is not premeditated. That's the excitement of the moment. Oh, my gosh, we did it. And this is the guy. It's almost like the Mateau call if you're a Ranger fan. Mateau. It like that brings you the excitement. There it is. And for Brad May, that is a great Sabre memory. Good pull there, Tim, on the fly. And look, the late Rick Jenneret, that's what he was good at. I mean, you could say that's almost a form of improv. Like, and you could hear him get excited as soon as he sees May going in. Could this be it? Yes, it is. Conversely, like I'm watching Game 5, and as soon as I saw Pasternak get him, like, oh bleep. I said oh something really bad at that point.
Offside, maybe.
Offside, damn it! Situation room. Derek Kramer, WGR Buffalo. I feel like I have to say it's all the same, right? He'll join us coming up on Monday. I don't know. Are we talking about round 2? Are we doing a eulogy? Are we doing the autopsy here? Let's hope not. I think this team has at least one more round in them. If you missed any of today's show, by all means, download the Odyssey app, go back and listen. We're on weekdays 1 to 3 Eastern time. We appreciate everybody watching on YouTube and Twitch as well. For my partner, Tim Schneider, for Dan DeLorean back in the other studio, my name is Gene Battaglia. Sabres hockey tonight. You'll have Razor and Dan on the call at 7:30. Show up in the Bulldog coming your way next year on Rochester Sports Leader, WGR Rochester.